There we go.
There we go.
Amitai, how you doing?
Good, very good. How are you?
I'm doing great. I don't know what magic we just pulled, but I'm glad we were able to do it. Glad to connect. Thank you for hopping on, promoting your episode on the Live Beyond the Norms podcast. The title is Amitai Eshel, Biohacker and Beauty Innovator, shares the secret to youthful skin and longevity. I remember, like, very specifically doing the research, right, to put together a quality interview with you. And it became very clear, right? So one, I'm just thinking skincare. Okay, how do we focus on skin? It's not my area of expertise. And then it just became very clear, you're a talented biohacker, right? Talk about being a talented biohacker, and you don't have to accept that if you want. I would absolutely say you're a talented biohacker. And then you've decided to focus on skin. I think you even said something along the lines of being a platform who's monetized a certain way. Share a little bit of that with our audience, please.
Yeah, so first of all, obviously, I think in the space of, biohacking, longevity, wellness, whatever you want to call it, there are two main paths. The first path is a personal path. Someone got, a bad luck of the draw and had some medical issue which they did not resolve through the allopathic medicine type solutions offered, and then they found a different solution. Just so happened to be the solution that is encompassed within the biohacking umbrella. And now they are kind of sharing what has helped them. I think this is probably the majority of people that I meet. I have to say that I consider myself, I think there's luck in both cases, but my luck is that I was very interested in optimal performance way before aging was something that was plaguing me personally, like it is now when I'm close to 40. So I was always interested in basically biohacking life. I remember as a teenager when I found out cigarettes are apparently cool. I was praying that they would find that there is a healthy cigarette you can smoke, and then you'll also be cool, but actually get benefits. And obviously that's a joke, but researching, different modalities to increase, output in the gym, anything like that. So I call it's more the nerdier side of biohacking, right? Or longevity. That's just something that interests you, and you continue to walk down that path professionally. And I was also fortunate when I got out of special operations. You normally get recruited into tech. I got recruited to a med tech company that basically was on the precipice of.
Your voice just cut out a little bit. I'll let you know when it comes back, because I think you're dealing.
Can you hear me?
With the call. There you go. Yep.
Oh. So I was that company basically was the maybe the first red light therapy company as we know it. Back then there was no biohacking, nothing like that. It was called consumer facing medical devices. And I fell in love with the idea of longevity and taking control of longevity. As I've grown older, I've also applied modalities to myself because I'm an avid I'm a jiu-jitsu junkie. I do jiu-jitsu every day. That's not good neither for your skin or for your overall injury count.
You're suggesting smearing across the mat is not optimal skincare?
It's a lot of scraping, a lot of inflammation in the skin, which to the point which I've developed melasma, which is hyperreactivity to UV radiation. So you become hyperpigmented. So, so this is a little bit about my journey as a person. Young Goose, the company that I co-founded together with my wife, is a journey that started. We tried to. We loved NAD IVs. We were part of. I was part of an exit of that red light therapy company and got some change in my pocket and was very interested in red light in NAD for myself as a person. But the problem was that back then, 12, 13, 14 years ago, NAD was something that in order to get a series of those IV drips, you would be forking out, thousands of dollars. Mm-hmm. And we thought both from a business sense and from a more general sense of being a good human, if we could innovate within that sphere and allow it to be accessible for more people, that would be a good idea. And we tried to develop a cream that would get NAD into your bloodstream. But it did not work out. The reason it didn't work out, and it took us 2 years for the sentence that I'm about to say, took 2 years to understand, but your skin is an organ that is especially and specifically deprived of NAD. Because it gets, your entire body ages from what is called intrinsic aging. 80% of the reason your skin ages is extrinsic aging, are the environments both within us and outside of us, but the environment accelerating aging. So the skin just would basically use, as long as you can get NAD nano-sized, microencapsulated in a way which would get into the skin, your skin's going to use it. It's not going to share. So we made lemonade out of lemons, and we started a skincare company, which helped me with my melasma, helped several people that when we started the company, it helped, and we grew it to today. We are in Europe, Australia, Central America, many hotels, estheticians. We ship all over the world, so it's became it. We have 17 different products, actually 18 now, different products. And what we are trying to do now, we are not the NAD skincare company, even though we were the first. We are the skin longevity company. So what we're trying to do is to translate longevity science to topical formulations that would work on the skin cellular level.
So hey, we've got to get this NAD. NAD is good. Let's find a better technique than actual IVs. Let's see if we can shove it through the skin. We spend an exorbitant amount of time realizing that doesn't happen because your skin uses it, and then now you start to say, okay, well, if the skin's using it and you're all obviously kind of playing around with it, noticing some benefits. So talk to me a little bit about, if you have compromised skin, how can that impact your aging? I mean, one of the points that I like to make is, what's the point of living longer? What's the point of longevity if you don't look good, right? Like, you want to look and feel good. But I think compromised skin can be worse than just like, okay, he doesn't look healthy. It drives other things. Yeah,
so that's a great question. And the skin, most people don't understand the skin is a communication organ. Actually, it is when we are around our sexual maturity and sexual prime, really, it's like a bell curve. The skin is a communication organ outwards, communicating that we are of good health and we can bear healthy offerings and obviously take care of them. And that's why we have good skin, really, or that's why the body decides that it is wise to invest energy in having pristine skin, because it sounds really stupid, really, if it wasn't for that. Like, why spend energy, which is obviously our body thinks is very scarce. It didn't hear about modern comforts and McDonald's. It thinks energy is very scarce. It wouldn't be a good idea. So that is only for reproduction, really. But throughout our lives, before, after, the skin is a communication organ inwards. It is communicating communication organ between the environment and the stressors of the environment and relaying them back to our body. And like every organ, when it grows old, it does not perform its function optimally. And what happens is that this communication is being hijacked by older malfunctioning cells. I think the most commonly, what people would maybe know about are zombie cells. But obviously most of what you do is communicate and deal with and talk about oxidative load and oxidative stress. And what people might know or not know is the reason senescent cells are bad for you, because senescent cells in general are, I'm gonna shock most people, they're good for you. So if we take mice and we genetically modify them to not be able to put cells in senescence, they die of cancer extremely early. So senescence is actually a protective mechanism. But what is bad with senescence, and why senescence over time, over the course of our lifetime, is a bad thing, is because they accumulate and they create inflammation. So it is the inflammaging they create, infecting other cells in their senescence through that, is the reason that they're bad. So that's an example for malfunctioning cells. There are other ones. But what they do is they hijack that communication between our skin and the brain. It's called the skin-brain axis is anchored in the brain in something called the HPA axis, hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis, which control anything from our fight or flight responses hormonally, different hormones. Really, it's a center of control in our brain, and it inflames and it ages that area in our brain, which in turn inflames and ages the rest of our body. So our skin isn't only we think of it really most of the time as if we really kind of meditate on how we view our skin, we might think of it as a protective layer. It's a smart way and a correct way to think of our skin. We might think of it as my skin looks good, my skin looks bad, which means it's a communicative organ outwards, right? But we don't really think of it as a communication organ inwards, which is where it can and does affect the rest of the body. Actually, shout out to University of Lisbon. That's where most of the research on that matter has been published, I believe, most of it.
So it's interesting. I hadn't really thought about it. It makes perfect sense that, okay, senescent cells do, like, the body turning cells into senescence is a way to kind of manage cancer, right? Because if you just let cells stick around and act normal, and it's an abnormal cancer cell, then you've got a problem. And then you actually got to do that next step to deal with that senescent cell, because it is, not only doing not much, taking resources, but even worse, kind of putting out those inflammatory markers. And is this something that you understand your skincare products address, is these senescent cells? Have you designed things specifically to address that?
Yeah, so we have used senolytics, or we are using senolytics and senomorphics. So senolytics in general is a more known word, which means that they eliminate senescent cells. But most of what people are excited about really are drugs that are senomorphic. Or obviously we don't use the word drugs, but ingredients that are senomorphic, which means that they can kind of resuscitate those cells and at least use them or resuscitate them enough for the body to kill them, or actually use their parts for newer parts through autophagy, which is another process that we're doing. So senomorphic and senolytics are some things we use. G14 is a molecule that we derive from algae. And spermidine is really the molecule that we are excited about the most, because spermidine doesn't only target senescent cells, but it targets senescent cells are one of 12 hallmarks or reasons why our cells age, any cell. And spermidine targets, depends on how you view it, between 9 to 12 of those. So either all of them or 3/4 of the reason cells age. And this is considered the strongest longevity molecule we know of, as far as the amount of hallmarks it addresses. You know, definitely there are, you know, rapamycin eliminates senescent cells. It's a drug. It's actually a pretty unpleasant experience. But rapamycin is eliminating senescent cells significantly better. The advantage of skincare is that hopefully you apply twice a day. So we can use ingredients that are more broad spectrum per se and are less aggressive, because we have more chances in affecting and hopefully people do it for the rest of their lives. So the approach is a little bit different. But yeah, we use a few other ingredients that are also affecting senescent cells in a positive manner. Yeah.
And you've got a new product. We're going to talk about that here. Before I go that, Spermidine, I think, is really interesting. The first time I came across it, I was at a conference, Supply Side West, and there was a presentation, and they're like literally talking about what would it take to really kind of have good confidence in something. And it was placebo-controlled, double-blind, you know, 2 of these studies, and it was on Spermidine and its positive impact. In this case, it was on hair growth. Like, if you think something's going to benefit hair growth and not going to benefit skin, like, you're maybe not doing the math,
Yeah.
right? Like, then it's going to have that. And then there was another one that was kind of a counter position, which is taking Spermidine didn't cause noticeable amounts of Spermidine increase in the system, right? But then you guys have this advantage where you're putting it topically. So you're trying to address the topical situation. So I've kind of invested Spermidine, pulled back from it, gone back to it, like come back away from it. So I'm excited that you're including that, because
I would just let you know, as far as like speaking with the person who won the Nobel Prize for autophagy 2016. By the way, what I'm going to say right now can be also extrapolated to NAD. The test of which you are measuring spermidine concentration in blood plasma, for example, or extracellular matrix, or whatever that is not a test that I would that would. It's definite. It could definitely be a causation, but it's not correlation with spermidine or NAD, for example, working well. And the reason is that spermidine should be in the cell. If I measure it outside of the cell, that might be a different issue. That might be a problem, as polyamines in general. That might be a different problem, your body not processing it correctly, etc. That actually might be a bad thing. And in the same manner, I see more and more people promoting NAD testing or promoting their product working, so their NAD supplement, for example, working effectively by measuring blood serum levels of NAD, for example. And that could mean that it actually didn't get ushered into the cell. Like, one of the problems we had with NAD in IVs for a long time is that we didn't understand where it went. So people felt amazing, obviously not while doing it, but afterwards you feel queasy when you do it. One of the reasons we try to find an alternative. People felt amazing. People felt younger for, however long they had the spike of NAD in their system. But when you measured, NAD in whatever in blood serum levels, we understood that it's not there. Was it secreted in urine, or what was going on there? Now we assume it went into muscle tissue. That's what some studies that are less, I would say, like complex are showing. But that's an example of that specific juxtaposition that you were exposed to is actually not correct as far as like how have to look at the data.
That's awesome, because fundamentally, right? Like, if you just say, people who take spermidine, it never shows up systemically, so there's no way it can do anything. And at the same point, you have 2 peer-reviewed published research papers that shows improvements in hair growth. Like,
Yeah.
then it's clearly doing something, right? Because we have those studies, and you can manipulate hair growth studies. Like, there's this propensity to start in the middle of the summer because we naturally get thicker and longer hair as we progressed into the colder winter months. Like, that's just an adaptive biology. But yeah, you have that juxtaposition, and so that's why I've visited it. And thank you. And you're saying it also applies to NAD. So
yeah. What's interesting, by the way, in spermidine, just as an anecdote, is that a lot of its benefit is actually not, as far as like skin benefits, actually not direct benefit to you. It's a direct benefit, now it's semantics, but it's direct benefit to your skin microbiome and skin barrier. So it is extremely beneficial for a youthful functioning skin barrier. So I'll give you 2 examples. Wound healing has a lot to do with your skin microbiome, as far as the reaction to the healing process. Another one would be legit, I would say, like anti-aging effects. So your skin microbiome, postbiotics, for example, which are the ingredients created by your microbiome, are nourishing to the skin and are necessary to build an environment that is youthful for your skin to regenerate, to the extent that anyone who feels that they need to use a skincare product to increase hydration are doing it for their own good feeling. And the reason is because hydration does not, your skin isn't built to receive hydration from outside sources. What you can do is prevent the loss of water from your skin. So you and I met in Vegas, for example, recently, and everyone not from Vegas is going to have like chapped lips within 2 hours landing, right? That is because that's because there is a in offset, there is a disbalance between the environment you're used to in Vegas, so that there is more imbalance between the hydration levels your skin has currently and the environment. So the hydration exits through what is called transepidermal water loss. One of your skin barrier and skin microbiome function through different postbiotics, but a skin barrier directly is to prevent molecules escape the skin, hydration molecules, water molecules. That's the main reason, by the way, they say to tape your mouth. It's because of the loss of water from your breathing, from your lungs to the environment, as an example, by the way. So spermidine, again, is a magical molecule, not only for us, but also for our microbiome.
I think a lot of people probably don't innately think, right? We're aware of our gut-brain axis, right? We're aware of a gut microbiome and how important that is, but probably don't think about the microbiome that exists on our skin and how important that is. You got something just coming out soon, like that's always exciting. I know, as a fellow business owner putting products out, you've tested it, you've changed it, you've thrown 100,000 labels away, you've like all in that bag, let's scrap the packaging. So it's like birthing a baby. Talk about your new baby.
So the new baby is actually, so one of our journeys at Young Goose is when we started, and again, I've told the story how we started here. We weren't aware, so we came from a skincare background, and we weren't aware that one of the things that our consumers are going to look for are clean formulations, or formulations that don't have any harmful chemicals, really. And that, if you asked a cosmetic chemist, like a skincare formulator, they're going to have a different opinion on what is harmful and what is beneficial than an Instagram influencer. Having said that, since at the end of the day, you need to serve the will of your consumers, we've invested the last 4 years or 3.5 years in really redeveloping a lot of our formulations to be quote unquote clean. We use the EWG1 as a reference. So EWG1, Environmental Working Group, 1 is their best grade, their cleanest grade. And we had a product called Green Tea Phytoserum, which was born to increase red light therapy. And we needed to reformulate it, but we said, you know what, we're going to look at the newest science, and we're going to develop something that has never been seen before. So we developed a product called LADDER, which is light activated DNA repair, LADR, LADDER serum. Since we ran out of green tea, it's already on the website, but we haven't spoken about it yet. And LADDER it has a few really unique things. First of all, it has spermidine, but it also has enzymes that are dormant, and they absorb into cells, and they need a red and near infrared rich environment in order to be activated. And when they're activated, when they're in the cell, they go and they scavenge for the fusion of letters in the DNA that are caused by UV radiation. And they actually repair that damage. So this is an innovation in the field of UV damage reversal. So a lot of people are wearing sunscreen like crazy, because, and that's, by the way, I'm one of them, but a lot of people wear sunscreen like crazy because they're afraid, and we actually talked a lot about it on the podcast that we did together, because they're afraid of UV damage to their DNA. The other part of people are people who are subscribed to the paradigms that they would like as much vitamin D as possible. They would not like to block that, so they don't use sunscreen. But in the back of their mind, they know that they're accelerating their skin's aging and aged appearance because of that. So both groups can now reverse that damage. Since we created a product that would do more and would enhance red light therapy per se, we actually incorporated something called spirulina AP. And spirulina AP is an extract from spirulina that has very interesting research around it, that in extremely simple terms increases the penetration of red and near infrared in very simple terms. So if anyone has a red light therapy mask, which are weaker normally than panels, or a panel, and they are disappointed because they never got the results that they thought they're going to get, this ingredient alone doubles the effects of red light therapy. So finally, people can use their red light therapy mask and receive significant change, because according to literature, you shouldn't get any results currently with the powers that red light therapy masks have, according to the literature. If you did, then you're a Superman. The third thing that it has, which is really, really, really cool, is something that users are going to see in all of our products. It's the next generation, and you and I talked about off air, or the need of innovation. I shared with you some of the very surprising players that people wouldn't think that are asking us to develop NAD skincare for them. And we need to innovate and to make sure that we're on the ball. And what we have is a new complex that we're going to integrate in more and more of our products that's called NAD Apex. And what's interesting in NAD Apex, yes, it has nano-sized microencapsulated NAD precursors, but it also has enzymes that allow you and I, anyone who uses the product, to make more NAD themselves, which is that's the lost part of what aging is. As we age, we make less NAD, or recycle less NAD. and that allows you to do it again. By the way, newer supplements like BioStacks, for example, have, or Nuchido, if anyone's from Europe, they use something that they call an NAD precursor, but it actually doesn't. It's not. Copper niacin, niacin cuprose. It doesn't turn into NAD, but it does help your body recycle NAD. So we're not the only ones using it, but we're the only ones that are using it in conjunction, both systems, boosting NAD externally and internally, and are using it are using it in skincare, obviously. So
excellent. And so that
there are, by the way, there are 10 supporting ingredients there, but this is really, these
are the heavy lifters. So okay, so it's called Ladder DNA Repair Serum. We put a link in the comments so anybody wants to reach out and check that out. It's pretty new. How likely are you to run out? Like, I know you guys know how to do marketing, and I know you guys. Are you going to run out?
There is always
a
Let me just say this.
That's enough of a hesitation. Like, if you're thinking, like, go ahead and pick this up. Like, don't wait. we don't need any more of that. So go pick that out. Ladder DNA Repair Serum. The link is here. Again, we're connected on this IG Live promoting Amitay's episode on the Live Beyond the Norms podcast. So glad that you were able to join us. Let's kind of wrap this up. This is, going back and forth, and you touched a lot on this, like where biohackers are like, I need more sun, and I gotta stay out of the sun, and so you have this back and forth. Yeah. And you know what, you've already kind of touched on, but maybe touch on it just one last time. Like, why might sunscreen be positive? Why might it be negative? And maybe you even offer something that mitigates the negative and enhances the positive.
That I'm going to keep to the podcast, though. But I'm going to tell you, sunscreen in general is not native to our body. Our body doesn't make sunscreen. It makes something called UCA, which is completely redundant. It's for solar flares. It has nothing to do with our day-to-day skin health. Our body makes melanin, which is a type of sunblock, right? It's our pigment. But really, we are beings that are designed to take damage until one day we die. And the idea of one of the, I think, most sacred biohacking principles is, how do we offset the intake of damage as opposed to the ability to repair damage? That's a biohacking principle, if there ever was one.
Yeah.
And sunscreen, really, although in our community it has been vilified, and definitely I can see the other side, which I'm going to touch on in a second. At the end of the day, the premise is, hey, let's mitigate, let's slow down the damage, so and obviously boost in other ways our body's repairability. Where it gets murky, so that's the positive, right? Where it gets murky is, I'll say two things. Number one, traditionally, sunscreen was something chemical, which we now understand can penetrate to our bloodstream, and there are studies showing that it can bioaccumulate some chemical sunscreens, but really we just don't know about the other ones. Okay, and that is scary enough, to the extent that the FDA claimed that there should be more. It kind of retracted its umbrella stamp on its safety, saying that it really encourages more studies around that subject. And that's what birthed non-nano, because nano physical sunscreens, they behave like chemical sunscreens and have the same issues. But it birthed the resurgence of your white nose colored physical protectants like zinc oxide.
Yep.
That we remember from many years ago. These are great. The problem is user experience there most of the time. These are great. They actually physically block. They sit on top of the skin. They're like a little mirror that reflects the sunlight. First of all, again, it's something that is not pleasant most of the time. Us and other companies have found ways to make it more pleasant. But there is a direct correlation between the amount of sun you get and the amount of vitamin D that you produce. Okay, vitamin D is, there is a pandemic of not enough vitamin D, and that is kind of the idea of, hey, I want to soak up any little photon that I can from the sun. So we talk a lot. If anyone wants to get a real, deep dive, I really recommend listening to the podcast. I'm not going to do it here, but what I would say is that there is a way to dance between the raindrops, no pun intended, and actually get the benefits without the damage. And that's there's no product, not a product that we sell. It's actually just some habits that you need to adopt. That's number one. The other thing that I would want people to be aware of is that we are designed to be around 70% outside and to die as a consequence, but we're designed to be a lot outside, and our body is designed to be a lot outside, about 70%, but we're 95% of the time indoors in the Western world. And other things that our body has not evolved to deal with at all, zero evolution, like EMF, like pollution, etc., are now aging our skin more than UV, and those are legit studies that 60% of the reason our skin ages, as far as like the environmental aggressors, is not non-UV. Artificial blue light, EMF, pollution, heavy metals, glyphosates, etc. So when we developed a sunscreen, and really, again, go to a podcast to learn more, when we developed a sunscreen, we developed a bio shield that would protect against those other things as much, if not more, than it would protect from UV, because these are things people are exposed to more.
Interesting. So it's a skin protector overall, as opposed to just dealing with what people are wanting.
Yeah.
That's great. You can find out more details. Make sure some people have subscribed to the channel. If anyone's kind of listening, make sure you subscribe to the Young Goose channel here on Instagram, also to the My Battle Seed channel here on Instagram. Go check out, there's links in this chat, so you can scroll through that. You can find Amitay's actual episode on the Live Beyond the Norms podcast, both where you can connect to it on all your podcast softwares, or also on YouTube. And is there anything before we wrap up here?
No. Obviously, we have if anyone's like super nerding out, wants to super nerd out about skincare, they're welcome to check out Biohacking Beauty Podcast.
Yes.
Top 25 podcasts in beauty and fashion. Apparently, it's the same category. So highly recommend checking that out if you are indeed someone that wants to listen to an hour of talking about, how to reverse wrinkles or pigmentation, or why this vitamin C is really, really bad for you, but that one is great for you, So, yeah.
What a great teaser. Why this vitamin C is really good for you and why this one is bad for you. They can find that at younggoose.com, right? They can find
there's a podcast
link to your
tab.
podcast.
Yeah.
I kind of Googled it, and that's probably the easiest thing. So go to younggoose.com to find the Biohacking Beauty podcast.
Yeah.
Amitai, it is awesome. We shook hands and said hello, and hey, this conference over in Vegas was really good as we were dealing with our drying skin. Probably me more than you. But it's always great to connect with you. We're looking forward. What's the next event you're going to? Like, if people are interested in kind of stalking you.
Okay, so I'm going to be speaking at a lot of events this year, because we have something called the skin longevity matrix, which means looking at how we can reverse skin aging. So I'll be in the 2 Don't Die Summits, which is the Brian Johnson
Yep.
one-day events. One is in New York, February 15th. The other one is March 22nd. I'll be in CryoCon. I'll be speaking in CryoCon. Again, when you look at those events, there are a couple stages, so just make sure you understand where and what. So we'll be in CryoCon. We'll be in Health Optimization Summit, which is in April as well, and then the Biohacking Conference, which is Dave Asprey's conference, which I'll be speaking at not the main stage.
Okay.
The not main stage. That's where I'll be. But yeah, please come by. I'll be at a booth in every one of those events. If you want to come and say something nice, do that. If you actually want to come and say something not nice, send us an email.
There'll be a booth on either side of me. You should go talk to them. Like,
yeah, exactly.
I don't even know what they're going to do, but go talk to them.
Exactly.
And I know that the Biohacking Optimization is in Austin. The Biohacking Conference, Dave Asprey's Biohacking Conference is also in Austin.
Also CryoCon.
Also
in Austin.
CryoCon.
I did forget one. Actually, it's pretty soon. I think at the end of February. I'm not 100% sure the dates. Biohacker Expo here in Miami, Florida.
Yep. That one I'll be at.
That one,
also. So
that one I'll be on the main stage apparently. So
also apparently,
yes.
I love that, how humble that is. Well, listen. I love listening to you talk about biohacking kind of in general, and then as you spend a lot more time on it, obviously on the biohacking the skin. So I absolutely believe you deserve to be on the main stage. I will be there. I'm not going to have a booth at that one. My wife and I are going to be there and kind of floating around and who knows, maybe interviewing some people, putting some short little interviews together. So I look forward to catching your talk there in Miami, and that is the last week of February, first weekend of March, I believe what that is. So
fantastic. I'll take your word for it.
Yeah, we'll see you there. Thanks everybody for tuning in, and